All right. We are waiting on Keely to get on. Sent her an invite. Unable to join. Damn. Let's try this again. Um, this thing never wants to work.
Yo, what up, dog?
There we go. It never
Hey.
worked. It never works the first time. Like it's always like unable to join. I'm like, well, I don't know
Yeah,
why.
it does that to me too. It's fucking dumb. Hold on, let me turn you up. I guess that's as loud as you go. Whatever. What's good?
What's that?
How are you?
I am doing, doing well. I feel like I just got my ass kicked for the past like 11 months, but
Bless your heart. You looked awesome though.
hey, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters is that you look awesome. That's really funny. Um,
We
well, I
are.
mean, you. Hold on. No. Actually, the origin of my name, the Killer Bee. So, like, my homie is Mark Tomanek, and he's actually the only reason I have a fucking Instagram. Because when I started bodybuilding with him, he was like, "Hey, if you kind of want like a name in the bodybuilding industry, you have to have social media." And I was like, social media." Yeah, no, exactly. And it's actually like a little play on his name. So like the Megatron, Killer Bee, like Transformers. It's a whole last thing. So that's what it's from. And my initials are KB, so it just flows in nicely. You know,
Beautiful
that's the
transition.
beautiful transition.
Yes. I like your backdrop. Mine is not quite as I do have a Santa Claus back there though.
Yeah, mine
So
is the Metatron's cube, which is
pretty
really
legit.
powerful. Really
Yeah.
powerful
I'm
sacred
I'm
geometry.
feeling it. It's resonating through the screen, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I feel uplifted already.
This is in my bedroom, and literally every single morning after I do my affirmations and gratitude, I
Just
draw Metatron's cube.
stare.
Um, yeah, no, like, dude, I could spend fucking 3 hours just talking about this geometry. But
Uh,
yeah, go on Amazon and get you a cool tapestry, son.
I, I guess I need it. I wish you make the tablecloth the tapestry.
Yes, 100%.
See?
Yes, I actually there's another form of sacred geometry. It actually started back before ancient Egypt, but the Jewish mystics, the Kabbalists, kind of adopted it, and it's the tree of life. And when I do like energy healing and massage, I actually use a tree of life tapestry and lay the person on the tapestry to help align the energy. So
Love it.
yeah, it's the good
Love it.
stuff.
So before we get too far into that, because people would be like, "What the fuck are we talking about?"
Yeah,
So
yeah,
let's.
I don't want to know.
So what I thought we would do initially is give us an intro in terms of. I think probably a lot of people may know you, but I don't know that they know everything that you do. So maybe talk
Yeah.
to us about how your maybe business venture and stuff has evolved into what it is now and kind of tell us where you're at with everything so people know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. I also, before we get started, like, I really want to fucking thank you for having me on. Like, when you asked me on,
Of
like, we're
course.
homies. Austin and I are homies, but it's
Of
also
course.
kind of like a fangirl moment. Like, oh shit. Like, Austin asked
Yeah,
me,
it's all good.
like, I might have
Yeah.
bragged a little bit to some friends. That's fine. Um,
Uh,
I was like, yeah, I'm going live with Austin, and he asked me, so
no big deal.
I
It's
mean, it's
fine.
no big deal, but kind of a big deal. Mark it on your calendar. It's fine.
You're trying to
Um,
play it. You're trying to play it off. You're like, it's fine. Everything's
Trying to
fine.
play like I'm not excited, but I literally, like, before we even started, oh, bro, I lit a fucking candle. I did some singing to open my throat chakra. Like, oh, there was a whole ass ritual. I showered. Oh, I got hyped for this shit.
Yeah,
um,
that's funny.
but no, my story is honestly super interesting, and I've never told the full thing. I probably won't here. I'll just give like the tidbits. But in a nutshell, um, like my background has honestly, like just literally my life is what has prepped me to do what I do. I started off this journey literally just knowing the way that I grew up was not like the path of love. I grew up with a lot of opposite examples, like literally how to not live life. And I decided I didn't want to go down that path. So like at age 14, I fucking secluded myself and started doing self-study. And I did so for myself and then to help raise my younger brothers. So this was like, it's just like a passion of mine to, like, literally my life goal is to be superhuman. Like, that's, people ask me what I want to do. I want to be superhuman so then I can teach other people how to be superhuman and then we take over the world. I mean,
Cool.
small dreams. Small dreams.
Can you include me? I would like to conquer.
Yeah, but I mean, you're already doing it. Like,
Okay, good.
so, yeah, it's hard. That's a given. But I, as far as like the business ventures, I started online with just kind of like doing bodybuilding. I was working with Mark at the time. And then as he started to grow, I started doing bodybuilding coaching with him because I had education on being a personal trainer. And like I've just been passionate about health and fitness from a young age because it just kind of seemed like common sense. But I fell out of that because I was fucking bored. It was just not reaching levels that I wanted to reach with people. And in 2020, I had a really powerful mystical experience where like I literally was in the presence of God, like life changing. I don't even have words to completely describe it, except like I knew I wanted to fucking die at that moment and go back to this energy, but obviously I'm not going to. So that was like a big like life-changing shift. And at the time I was still doing bodybuilding coaching and all of that. I left bodybuilding just because it doesn't resonate with me. But I call myself a vibration coach because I don't like life coach. I don't like spiritual coach. I don't like
Sure.
all of that. Like there's just so much weight that's carried around with that. And also like what I do for people is I literally, because it's more so about an understanding of who and what you are as not just a physical being, but as an energetic being, because physical life is energy. Just as a, if you don't understand science, like everything is energy just vibrating at different frequencies, and that's what gives the appearance of physical reality. So like the physical life that you're living is literally like the tip of the iceberg of the being that you actually are, and you can access those higher aspects and then utilize them within this lifetime to very literally raise the vibration of physical matter. So that's kind of what I do. I do some other stuff too, but as far as like the online coaching and things of that nature, that's, I don't know, it's hard to fully explain it.
Well, I'll segue it then. So because, and I may be assuming wrong, and you can correct me,
Mhm.
um, because of your connection with bodybuilding and stuff, did you find that a lot of your initial demographic was people that you knew within the space, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
like, right, which I assume. So like, let's start with that because that's going to be a lot of the audience here.
Hmm.
And what, I guess because I'm sure there's trends that you definitely notice with like that demographic, like different,
Hmm.
personality traits and psych, and a lot of things that probably there's patterns there, right? So
Hmm.
what would you say? are some of the common disconnects and things that this demographic is struggling with to, connect on the levels that you're trying? Because I'm sure there's like a lot of similarities
Yeah, I
between
mean,
people.
I mainly work with bodybuilders.
Right.
Like that pretty much is the demographic of people I work with, because like the work that we do is kind of like the next step of people that have honestly mastered their masculine energy and mastered control of their physical self. Because bodybuilding, fucking A1 for that. Like,
Right.
bodybuilding
Sure.
is
Of course.
so good at getting you to master the principles of discipline, of repeated action, um, of selecting a direction and going towards it nonstop. And that is the masculine energy. And that is the problem that most people run into, because it is not balanced. And a lot of people fucking dog on that word balance, but that is life. And balance doesn't mean 50-50. There needs to be a flow, because 50-50 means no movement, and everyone has this like individual balance that they go for. But that's mainly what I run into is I work with mainly women, and they feel disconnected as fuck from their feminine side. And
Right.
it is that feminine side that allows for free flow, for expression, for spontaneity, for letting your intuition guide you. Where bodybuilding is very, no, we made this plan, you stick to the plan, boom, 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 boom. There's no room for, even in the movements, like most people aren't programming dance or yoga into their programs. And then people very literally in their body feel like stiff, like they can't move. So that's a lot of the problems that I see with people, is the inability to step away from structure and feel okay, which is
Right.
so integral to being able to survive as a human being. Like,
You find, I think so something I notice is I think that the definition of feminine energy is misinterpreted because a lot of the women in the space are like, I'm a bad bitch, right? Like I'm this,
mm-hmm,
I'm that. I'm like, but that's a masculine energy a lot of the time,
mm-hmm,
right? Like
mm-hmm,
they're portraying it as this strong feminine characteristic when really
mm-hmm,
it's not.
mm-hmm.
It's just like another form. It's misinterpreting that definition of feminine energy.
Yeah.
And for guys too, like, a man needs that feminine energy as well, at least to some
Mm-hmm.
extent, to balance things out.
100%. And I think just masculine and feminine energy and their definitions there are levels to the understanding, and one of the things I like to drive home with people is understanding things at like a universal level, not a physical expression level. So the masculine energy in a very simple way, the best way to look at it is to look at the penis and the vagina, y'all. Like, that is the best way to look at it. Masculine energy is phallic, like it's moving forward, it gives, it penetrates, it is like fucking, it's strong,
Right.
like a healthy cock is a strong cock. Um, the feminine energy, think about the vagina. It literally pulls in, it is dark, it is receptive, it is wildly creative. Literally, the female reproductive system creates babies, y'all, and it happens without effort. Um, and it like it's just so much more flowy and mysterious. And it's like, I can't emphasize enough that inward pull. And a lot of people tend to avoid that in the bodybuilding world, male and female, because it is so focused on external movements. With the aside from like coaches that emphasize like a lot of stress management, like I love when I see coaches that tell their athletes that they need to meditate, they need to do inner work, they need to go to therapy or address their inner issues, because all of this outward work doesn't mean jack shit if it's coming from a space of not knowing yourself. And I feel like a lot of people use that masculine energy to create these personas that hold them up, but on the inside, they don't even fucking know who they are. Um,
Right.
so that's like
Yeah.
to truly understand like masculine and feminine as that outward and the inward, and okay, well, how do I balance that? How do I leave space to truly listen to my heart, but also stick to a plan? You know, so I see that a lot, a
Right.
lot.
Yeah. And like I talk about this a lot from I try to intermix the physiological portion of it and how understanding that balance will ultimately lead to a better result. Like that's what people
Mm-hmm,
want, right? Like when we're
mm-hmm,
talking, because I'm a coach, I'm here to get people results ultimately. But,
mm-hmm.
you know, understanding that you can't tip the scale continuously on one side and expect something to continue in the same direction without resistance at some point,
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
you know, I I find and I deal with probably equally, it's probably 50% male, 50% female, like something in that realm. And the the imbalances are actually relatively similar between genders as far as like
Mm-hmm,
the tendencies. Most I find that the tendencies actually vary more between something like a general population versus a competitor type of client.
yeah.
My and you can talk about this too and how you might like what kind of things you might actually suggest to these individuals. But like the competitor clients tend to struggle with the structure as an absolute thing, right? And
Mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm,
inflexibility, right?
mm-hmm,
Neuroticism, OCD, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas the general population may struggle with the like lack of adherence, lack of structure
mm-hmm,
type of thing, right? So it ultimately leads to the same problems, which is stress and which is resistance towards,
mm-hmm,
physiological result, hormones, gut, et cetera, et cetera.
mm-hmm.
But males and females tend to display a lot of the same types of tendencies when we're talking competitors. If anything, I would say that I probably have more more of I probably have more masculine energy in women than
Mm-hmm.
in men as far as driving that like OCD structure, that physical action.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas men, like you'll get more like laziness sometimes in that population. So it's interesting because, again, like I feel, and I'm not an expert in this, but I feel like that's where that definitions get really, really skewed.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, the whatever you are experiencing, like you're always going to push for the opposite as well. So like I know for me personally, as I grew in this journey, and like I was terrified of going inward as a female because I had experienced so much pain that I pushed heavy on my masculine. I was hyper masculine to compensate for the fact that my feminine energy was not in balance. And so like you'll see this, it's always layers on layers, and it's always the pendulum swinging in both ways to find balance. But I definitely agree. I think I mean, we can get into fucking culture at this point with women trying to compensate for men and da 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 da. But I mean, that's a whole nother fucking conversation in itself. Um,
You here's one that I think will this okay, so this is pretty applicable to everyone, like anyone, literally myself, everyone. And that is what drives. I feel like the more extreme you are on one side or the other, especially when we're talking like these people that are ultra, ultra structured,
mhm,
is you know, like the person that's going to like whip out their food scale on the sidewalk type
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is the driving, fear being the driver. It's in fear, and I'll give you super easy examples of this. So, super easy examples would be addictive behaviors when it comes to like a functional health client. So, like they have extreme hormonal, you know, dysregulation. Okay, they come in, it's so blatantly obvious, like they're to the point where they acknowledge like that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to have someone like myself telling them, et cetera, et cetera. But what is addiction? Addiction is essentially you continue to repeat a deleterious behavior,
Mm-hmm.
even though generally an extreme addict knows what they're doing is hurting them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we see that manifest in bodybuilding
Right.
all the time, like every single day.
Yeah.
And and that's where I find that fear obviously is probably the biggest driver is like just fear of doing something different. Like they just
Mm-hmm.
because their whole identity is wrapped up in whatever, you know, whatever it may be. So could you talk about, because I'm sure that's something you run into, could you talk about maybe
Oh yeah.
how, like what would even be an initial step that you might take with somebody that's paralyzed by that fear and they know what they're doing is potentially hurting them,
Yeah.
but they have a difficult time changing.
Yeah. So I completely agree. Fear is such a huge driver, and it like the I think the biggest thing is to like first intellectually understand what's going on. That like your ego is literally trying to protect itself because
Ego.
it thinks that if you change, you're gonna die. That's like the job is the ego is to protect the physical body. So understanding that ego is going to resist change at all costs is going to help you so much. So now you know that the ego is like a fucking child that doesn't want to give up its baby blanket. You can approach your ego in a very different way and also know, like, hey, even though I feel fear, it's okay to move forward. Another thing that I like to do is literally force people into their fear in meditation using visualization. So, all you have to do is number one, master meditation and be able to drop into theta state. That in itself, like you have to be able to do that in order to utilize these practices. Because in theta state, you're actually in a hypnotic state, so you can make massive changes to your subconscious. From there, I have people play out the scenarios that they're afraid of. So if you're afraid that like I had a huge ego death when I stopped bodybuilding and separated
Right.
myself from the bodybuilding world. Massive. Number one, my day to day changed. Huge. The goals of my life changed. Huge. Everyone I surrounded myself with changed. Huge. Who I fucking was as a person changed. Huge. That's terrifying. But I
Can I
knew.
stop you right there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But did who you were as a person actually change? The question's like,
Um,
well,
my
because
ego
I
changed.
think, yeah, I think that, well, because that's something like you listen, you like read this stuff. I talk on like a little bit different wavelength, right? But like the
Mm-hmm,
message, a
mm-hmm.
lot of the messages are similar.
Same.
But I think that one of the things that I'm portraying to people is that your identity as a person, it doesn't mean that you're going to be somebody else necessarily.
Mm-hmm,
It doesn't
mm-hmm.
mean that you're going to like your identity's going to die.
No.
Maybe, maybe like pieces of some of those
Mm-hmm.
bad pieces of the identity are going to drop off,
Yeah.
which is kind of what we're after,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like I'm like you know me, I'm like this super like logical, like
Yeah.
sensible talk on those kind of terms type of
Yeah.
person. So um, I really try to do something similar with people in that it's like I try to make things, and you're like making people lean into fear, whereas like I'm trying to make things so blatantly obvious and
Mm-hmm.
so logical and so elementary that you can almost like not, like you can't not comprehend it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. See, I take, like you said, we take a little bit different of approach. And I like to use the term kiss your demons. Because if you get used to hanging out in the dark and you get used to playing with fear and you make friends with it, it is now your ally, and you no longer fear fear. Um, so that's kind of the approach that I take of literally getting yourself used to, because like as far as ego deaths go, the way I explain it is your core soul frequency, who you are as a soul, is not going to change, but it will change how it wants to express. Just like today, I want to wear my Kool-Aid t-shirt. Tomorrow, I want to wear my fucking dragon t-shirt, you know? And that's how egos are going to be. If I was the same person that I was at 14 years old, I would be fucked right now. You should be going through ego deaths continually. You should not be the same person you were yesterday. And if you continue to cling to that, you're going to run into some fucking problems. You're going to slow your progress. You're not going to be able to shift whenever your soul says shift. So it really is what I try to encourage people to do is to befriend fear, befriend those darkest moments, and realize literally, okay, as I'm diving into this abyss, because it is going to be difficult, it is going to be challenging. As I'm diving into this abyss, I am literally purposefully going through this cataclysmic change to become better on the other side. And then it's extremely empowering. And then you're like, oh, fuck. Like, fear is low key my homie. Like, dope. I'm feeling fear. Cool. Let's go. Let's buckle in. And it really is as simple as a perspective shift and then practice. You have to practice feeling fear and moving forward anyway. Like
So
I go ahead.
go ahead. I was to say, a mistake that I see is, again, I think, like mistaking kind of definitions of things is like, so what do we see in our space? Hardcore, right? Like we can suffer. Okay. I think that people aren't suffering nearly. I don't think they're suffering the way that they think they are. I think they're actually doing things that aren't they're comfortable with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like to an average person, weighing your food and going to failure in the gym and like doing all that's scary and that's painful.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where people are comfortable in this space. So it's really not pain in the way that they think that it's pain. That's actually comfort to them.
Mm-hmm.
What actually scares people and what actually causes pain and what actually causes fear is when you take that away,
Yeah.
right? So again, I use this functional health clients because they're just really easy examples.
Yeah.
Is they can these are people that tend to have maybe eating disordered pasts, or they have like over exercising, extreme activity levels, like all these deleterious things. So if I tell them to eat 800 calories and like train 7 days a week and do 2 hours
They're
of
like,
cardio, they're like,
yes.
sweet, cool. Like I'm gonna feel
Yeah.
like shit, but like that's where they're comfortable there,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when I take that away from them on paper, you're like, well, that's easier, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Physically it is easier, but now that's when that fear comes in. Now that's when that actual psychological pain comes in. So maybe talk about that a little bit, because I think that what people in our space are thinking of as like pain and suffering, it's really just where they thrive.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not hurting, not mentally anyhow.
Yeah.
They're comfortable.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's such a great point, because it really highlights that your experience is truly all about perspective. Like, I know for me, I hate phone calls. I hate phone calls. Like, I will do everything I can to avoid a fucking phone call until I can't avoid it anymore. Like, a phone call is more difficult for me than going to the gym. Like, I'll spend 3 hours at the gym. Um, but it really all comes back to fucking mind games. Like, as much as we want everything to be about doing, it really is about how you talk to yourself. um I I joke around and I tell people that I encourage schizophrenia. because it makes it easier to, I mean, it makes it easier to navigate your psyche. So like I'll just use myself for example with my fucking phone calls. When I know I need to make a phone call and I don't want to fucking make it just because I hate phone calls, I am literally then going to split myself into the child Keely that's afraid of a phone call and the mother Keely or the father Keely that is going to be like, nah, baby, you know, you need to make this phone call. Go ahead and pick up the phone. You're going to be fine afterwards. Like literally looking at your internal dialogue and like focusing on the love and support that you give yourself in those moments of fear is absolutely foundational, because like you're not always going to have an Austin to fucking back you up when you're approaching fear. And like I said before, it comes down to practice. It comes down
Percent.
to like just like in bodybuilding, you're only going to grow when you get the reps in. So if you
Yeah.
keep coming up to the rep and then you back down, you're not going to fucking grow. So like it really is just step forward into it, and literally do something that makes you feel uncomfortable every day, not physically uncomfortable, but like I'm scared, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to move forward anyway. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
dance and I full blown fucking dance in public. Like you don't think there was a time where I was afraid of what everybody in the gym was fucking thinking about me?
Yeah.
I had
I
to
know.
put
I
in the
watch. I'm
reps.
just like, oh, Keely's dancing. No biggie.
Yeah, like I had to put in the
Fine.
reps to not give a fuck. I'm the motherfucker full blown rocking out on the step mill. Like it took reps to be that comfortable. Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
that answers
I
your question.
uh I use so I always use the results thing too with people. It's like you talk about repetition, which that's a super familiar thing with our population
Oh yeah.
again. So right, again. So it's like if I can relate it in a way that's if I can, put things away that are relatable, um, things get easier when you
Mm-hmm.
repeat them. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
like again, going back to me changing what someone's doing to get a result. What I tell them, as I said, yes, it's going to be hard, it's going to be scary, it's going to be this and that, but when it starts working and you like the
Mm-hmm.
result, it becomes easier,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you start feeling better, you're like, oh wait, this is
Yeah.
nice. You're like,
Yeah. I
wait, I don't.
think.
Well, and I see this a lot too, like competing.
Mm-hmm.
I prep people all the time, right? And it's like a lot of these health cases, like I know I've done so many of them now that they come in, they're like, fix me so I can prep. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Half of them never want to prep again after they feel
Yeah.
better because they're like, well, fuck
Fuck
that.
that. Yeah.
Like I don't want to get fucked up again. Like I like feeling better. Now some
Yeah.
of them do, and that's fine. But, I'm always like, okay, we'll see. Like
Yeah.
we'll see how you feel. And things become easier and things become easier. I can tell you that I bodybuilded for long enough now, going on whatever, 14, 15 years, whatever it is. And I do things like structurally as far as my like as far as my actual like plan and execution and stuff. I do things so much differently and I get so much better result because I've just let go of so many things over the years that are just wasted energy and just weren't really contributing to my bottom line. And ultimately that evolved into just enjoying, social settings and that I'm not like someone that's super social anyhow. Like I'm not
Yeah.
like going out and doing tons of stuff, but
Yeah.
I can I have no problem being in those settings anymore where a lot of these people like leaving their house and being in a situation where they like don't have their Tupperware is fucking paralyzing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's scary, so I tell people, I'm like, just wait until you get a result. And when you get a result, this becomes familiar and it becomes easy. So, takes time. Takes a lot of
Yeah.
repetition, a lot of time.
Yeah. And it's I feel like for the bodybuilding population, especially to create longevity in athletes, like you need to know how to live. Like bodybuilding, let's be real. Let's be real. Actually competing has a shit ROI. Like the
Yeah,
ROI
none.
on
I mean,
actually
kind of. I
competing,
mean,
like is
yeah,
like unless you are a coach, unless you are like legit trying to make it a career. I'm just talking about people competing. Like you are literally just competing. Like the ROI on bodybuilding is not fantastic. The first couple times through, I think the ROI is huge because you learn how far you can push
sure.
yourself, you learn how disciplined you are. But as you keep going, the ROI diminishes unless you choose the fitness industry as your career path. Because you already know you can push that far. You already know what you're capable of. And all you're
That
doing,
dopamine ceiling is like,
yeah,
boo.
and literally all you're doing is stepping up to the same challenge that you already know you can fucking do so you can feel better going through the challenge. Well, there's a million other challenges you can put yourself through in life that make you grow in multiple ways, that you truly, if it really all depends on your goal. But if your goal is to be a like literally the highest best version of yourself, it would be wise to challenge yourself in a variety of ways. Like that just makes more
100%.
sense. That just makes more sense. So like it's just something to consider because like bodybuilders, we are those people that want to fucking grow. We actively want to be our best. Like but like I said, if you're stepping up to the same plate every time,
Not doing anything different.
how much are you
Yeah.
really growing? Like,
Um,
mm,
there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. One more topic that I want to talk about and get your take on, and that is one of the things I do with people that are those people, the ones that we've been talking about,
mhm,
is a question. So I like to ask a lot of questions because I like to
mhm,
just make people think and challenge them because they
mhm.
just don't. They just are. That's autopilot. You know how it
Yeah.
goes. And one of the things I asked them is I was like, what did you do before you were a bodybuilder? Like,
Mhm.
surely there was something you enjoyed. Now, if it was like going to the bar and getting fucked up every night, maybe that's not the best activity
Yeah.
to like re-explore. But like there was something like what makes you happy? And the
Mhm.
scary thing is they can't answer that
Yeah.
question. They
Yeah.
can't. They don't have an answer. And I'm like, you mean to tell me, or they'll say something like, it'll be like another activity that's like extreme. They're like hiking for 20 miles. And I'm like, all right,
Okay.
you that's not it. And or like extreme, I'm like, okay, well, that's not really the point.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Yeah.
what makes you happy
Mhm.
outside of name one thing?
Mhm.
A lot of people can't.
Mhm.
And then, and I don't post a lot of my personal life online. Like I just use my shit for mostly for business and stuff and
Yeah.
my cats occasionally.
They're great.
And at naturally as one should. But people are always surprised when like these little, I don't know if you want to call them hobbies or interests,
Mhm.
but like I have like these weird little like sub interests that I'm into that have jack shit to do with fitness. Like I don't
Mhm.
follow bodybuilding hardly. I don't I don't really know what's going on most of the time, like pros, and I just don't know because I just
Just do
don't care
your
that
shit.
much. I don't fucking care. And,
Yeah.
my interests are all like outside of that. And so one of the things I've done with myself because of my tendencies of obsessive compulsive disorder really is like I make it a priority to follow these. I don't have a lot of spare times, but I just make it a priority that like keep up with these other things that I like.
Yeah.
And that's a non-negotiable for me.
Mhm.
It's a
Mhm.
non-negotiable, has to happen. it's for my own, mental health. So
Yeah.
is is that something that you encourage with people, is like
Oh
exploring?
yeah.
Okay, so, which I assumed it was. So like how would you even begin to like tap into that, exploring new hobbies, or maybe like re-exploring old hobbies?
Let me pull this up. So, one of the things I do, because I play on bodybuilders' love of checklists and programming, I play on
Okay.
that. So, I actually let me pull it up. I created something called the Joy Prescription, and it is very literally a list of habits with time frames to complete in order to reconnect yourself to that part. So like that's your feminine energy, that creative side, the side that wants pleasure and enjoyment and variety. And that's pretty much what I help people reconnect to. So like the list of habits that I have for people to, number one, if they don't know that side of themselves, how to connect to that side of themselves. And then number two, to prioritize that side of themselves. Because, like you said, you go out of your way to make sure that is something that's included in your life. So, like, what I give people is there's daily practices and then there's weekly practices. So, daily practice of meditation for a minimum of 10 minutes a day, and then energy work and chakra clearing daily, which I provide a meditation that helps you do that. Um, Daily affirmations, gratitude, a grounding practice that gets you into nature or energetic grounding, and then sound healing frequencies, which we can dive into the fucking magic of sound and light healing another day. But then the weekly practices are an inner child activity, and you need to do that for at least 20 minutes. So one of the
Like
things
that.
that will help you find those passions again is literally think about the shit that you used to love as a kid. Like
Right.
I love to sing, I love to dance, I love to draw, I love to pretend to be a fucking medicine woman. I love to play with animals. Like I make sure that is in my life daily, not just weekly. I have actually structured my entire life to live as my inner child. Like that's the secret to life, is structure your life to make your inner child happy. Time in nature, you have to do a conscious embodiment activity. So that has to be movement that is not structured, where you are literally moving into parts of your body that you usually don't. So whether it's like yoga, dance, some sort of martial art, a very novel movement where it's not a repetitive movement. Because if you're constantly doing movements to mold and sculpt and punish your body, guess what you're telling your body? That it is something to be molded, sculpted, and punished, not something to be healed and enjoyed. Um, Hold on, my phone keeps locking. And then a creative activity. So it can be anything from doing a puzzle to painting to singing to something where you start with nothing, or you start with two things and then you combine them to make it new. I don't give a fuck what it is, but you
Right.
need to run that energy, because that is your essence as a divine being. You are a creator. And when you're not running that, you feel dry. You feel dried the fuck up because you're not in the flow of literally what you came to earth to be, which is a conscious creator. You have to do an Epsom salt bath. You have to do a massage, whether from someone else or a massage gun. And then you have to do at least 20 minutes of journaling, manifestation, or just simply daydreaming. So like these are all things that when you work with me, like these are priorities. Now, when you add all that up, we're getting, at least 2 hours of you time, of you and your soul being in communication. And then from there, like I literally just step out of the way, because you start to remember who the fuck you are without all the other shit in the way. So I think for mental health, it is absolutely integral to a, do things you enjoy, b, do things that put you in a creative energy, even if you're not a quote creative person. Like I'm a wildly creative person, that's just where I thrive. But everyone, like even like you, when you create plans for your clients and your athletes. Like, you're in your creative energy because you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, what does this person need? What supplements can I use? What movements can I use to create this new energy within this person? What questions can I ask them? So you're flowing this beautiful creative energy, which helps to keep you in a little bit more balance. And most people don't fucking have that. Most people don't have jack shit, or like when they are creating something, it's not something they're passionate about. They're creating a document for their boss. Like, the energy behind your creation matters too. If you don't have the passion and the joy behind it, you're not living. Like, that's a problem. You know?
Yeah.
So that's my rant.
That's a really, I think there were some really nice practical takeaways there to kind of get people started for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm up on time. I really appreciate you coming on, and let's plug. We got to plug. So how can people reach out to you if they want to inquire about services or follow anything?
Yeah, you can follow me at the Killer Bee with just a B underscore. If you're interested in services, literally shoot me a DM and we'll hop on a call. Cause I don't fucking resonate with everybody, you know? So, we'll just see if we click, and, yeah, that's about it. Just shoot me a message.
Perfect.
Be a
That,
homie.
that was awesome. No, I loved it.
You're awesome.
I can't say that I've seen, we just set a new precedent in bodybuilding IG lives right there. Boom. First, you heard it here first, folks.
That's
So
right.
I'll repost. So anyone that wants to go back and watch the whole thing, they can see it up on my page. And thank you, everybody, for coming on.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Austin. I appreciate you.
Yep. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.